Tillmans, and I'll be presenting on Alteryx automations, tips and tricks. My goal for this presentation is to provide some tools in Alteryx in order to turn your manual workflows into automated ones. And so with that, we will get right into it. Quick introduction. I did my undergraduate here at ASU. I triple majored in data science, economics, and political science, and double minored in communication and philosophy. After that, I got an amazing opportunity to work at Educational Outreach and Student Services Senior VP Office, where I assist with the department's data needs, and I get to play with data all day, so I love it. And then I'm also pursuing a master's degree through IRA Fulton in a degree program of data science, analytics, and engineering with a concentration in mechanical and aerospace. So that we'll get right into it. So for the agenda, we got a lot to cover today. So we're going to go over a quick introduction of Alteryx. It is the second day of the data conference and the last session. So I would be a little surprised if you haven't heard the word Alteryx, but if you haven't, we got you covered. We're going to go over connecting to the gallery, getting an AUDB set up and why it's important to have an AUDB when automating your workflows. We'll go over Google Sheets, the reporting tool suite, Alteryx applications, and the Python tool. So introduction. So what is Alteryx? Alteryx is a very powerful data analysis tool. I like to think of it as Python, but no code. It's very visual and easy, and you can rapidly prototype different workflows in order to clean, transform, and wrangle your data within Alteryx. And then that all leads to the ability to automate different reports inside of it. So it's a very powerful tool. To get access to Alteryx, you will need an Amazon VI desktop. And so when this is published, you can access that link there. I do recommend you to start with the black tier Amazon VI workspace, and you can always and get more memory and upgrade to that maroon one. Once you do have your VI Amazon workspace, you can click that link there, and you can add it to your workspace. I will mention that as of now, the Amazon workspaces are not going to be charged to your department, but I'd always plan just in case that changes in the future. However, getting an Alteryx license will charge back your department $2,000 for the license, but it's well worth it if you use it correctly. If you are new to Alteryx, I just wanted to throw some great resources in here. I do highly recommend the Alteryx interactive lessons. They can be found at that link there. These are little mini sessions between 2 to 10 minutes long, and it's drag and drop and quizzes you at the end. So if you got to refresh some of your Alteryx tools, you can go there. It's a great resource. There's a few others here. I highly recommend getting into the Alteryx Slack channel, as well as joining the Alteryx Analytics user group hosted by Josh Johnson. It's a great resource and a lot of great individuals to connect with there. All right, so getting right into it. So connecting to the gallery and getting an AUDB set up for your departments. So what is the Alteryx gallery? The gallery is basically a place where you can upload your workflows into the gallery server, and we can schedule these workflows to run on a scheduling basis. Primarily, if you were wanting to get access to the gallery, you typically want to have access to data that gets refreshed on an automated basis, but you don't. But that's not the only case in why you would want to get access to the gallery. You may want access to the gallery if you want to share your workflows in a collaborative environment through the collections that the gallery offers. You can upload your workflows there, and then your team or department will be able to access that collection. And so you can collaborate on those workflows from there, even if it's not an automated workflow. So let's go through how you can get access to the gallery. So when you're in Alteryx, you can go to the file, hover over Save As. There will be an Alteryx server that you can hover over. And you can see I already have Arizona State University there, but you won't see that if you don't have it yet. And you will select Add a new server. From there, you will input the Alteryx URL into the pop-up window there, /gallery, and you will click Connect. After you click Connect, it will prompt you for an SSO. which you'll just put in your ASU rights credentials. And then from there, your Alteryx gallery will be connected to, or your Alteryx workflow will be connected to the gallery. So now, once we've connected our workflow to the gallery, we'll want to schedule a workflow. So doing that, once we've created your workflow, you will hover over options, you go to schedule workflow, and then you will go to, a little window will pop up and you'll select the server that we had just added. Now, if it is not there, you can do the same process by clicking that add server button. Then in the third window, you will just enter the name that you want to call the workflow that we are scheduling into the gallery. And then you'll want to make sure that that saving workflow bar completely fills up, and it allows you to get a link to go directly to that in the through a URL. So now how do we access the gallery? You will input that URL or the link that pops up after you save or schedule that workflow to the gallery. And so this is what it looks like, pretty straightforward. You access the gallery via like a web application, so just through Internet Explorer. And then once you log into that gallery, you'll have access to all the workflows that you have scheduled. And so scheduling basically just puts it onto the gallery, but we have yet to create a recurring schedule basis here. So in order to do that, once you're signed in to the Alteryx gallery at the link at the top, you can click on your schedules. You can search up a particular workflow that you have added, and then you will select edit at the right side of the screen there. After you select edit, you'll be brought to this page in which you will be able to schedule this on a recurring basis. So typically most people will click recurring, which you see there, the blue box there. And then once you do that, you can select at the frequency. So this can be daily, monthly, yearly, or you can do custom scheduling in order to have this report run. This is going to be run on the second month on Mondays. And then the next important piece is setting the start date. So you want to always input the start date information using these little pop-up windows. So how you do that is you just click on this little cell here and these will pop up. If you try to edit this directly, this can cause issues. So be sure to just use these little pop-up windows. And there you can choose the date and time that you want the initial start date to run. And always make sure that you schedule it in the future, because if you put it like say a day before, it will not end up running the schedule. So that is how you get access to the gallery and you would schedule a workflow. Let's talk about AUDB. An AUDB is a personalized database, or a database basically for your department to store data that's maybe related to reports or dashboards that you want to feed. And so this just almost makes you become a mini database manager in which you can eventually enhance and invest these tables in order to be migrated to the enterprise data warehouse, but typically are leveraged solely by the department or area of the AUDB. Now, I highly recommend that you connect and get a consultation from ET to make sure that your department doesn't already have an AUDB, and talk about your use case with it. But if you do not have an AUDB, you can click that link there to submit a form to get one for yourself or department. So let's talk about creating or updating a table in AUDB. I just put a simple text input tool there, but basically what would happen is you would drag a data output tool onto your workflow. You would select setup connection. You will then select data sources. You will scroll down until you see the PostgreSQL, which is what the AUDB server kind of runs on. And then you will select initially the ODBC connection. You will then be prompted to what the source name that you want to select is. And we want, if we are going to write data to our AUDB, we want AUDB_production, which is that PRD, and writes. And then you're going to put in your ASU credentials there. And then once you hit OK, you will then be asked what is going to be the table name. So in order to do this, you're going to have created or have gotten access to write to a schema in your AUDB. and you're going to want to put the schema name first. You want to put it perfectly. So right now, so for example, here I have EOS financial HR underscore team. So that is our schema. And then whatever table name, new table that you're going to add to your AUDB, that will be, you'll do dot, and then that's what's underlined in red there. So I just put data, a little abbreviation of conference in 2024. So once you hit OK, you'll then be met with this page. So you're going to have essentially the credentials as well as a schema and data name and the right to file or database. So say you were to accidentally mistype the table name or schema name, you can edit it right there in that cell block. For the data output options, when you initially create a database or a table within your schema, you're going to want to make sure that options number 4, the output options, is selected to create new table. This will allow you to create the new table in your AUDB. If you were to rerun this, it will fail because that table already exists. So you're going to want to either overwrite the table if that's the way you have your data structured, that you always want to overwrite the table, or you can always update. So if you have a primary ID within that table, you can connect to that and it will understand if you have a new primary ID or if a row that is already existing has changed, and will update that row. So it's a great tool to be able to store your data and to be able to have third-party tools access your ADB for that data. So, and then just quickly, so that's how you would write to your ADB. Let's talk about reading to a table. Similar in steps 1 through 3, rather than dropping in a data output tool, you will drop in a data input tool. And you will then go to data sources, and then you will select the PostgreSQL OB or ODBC. And then rather than AUDB production write, you will do AUDB production read. And then from there, you'll be prompted by that window on the right. And in the visual query builder, you can then just kind of expand that little plus sign until you find your schema and table you want to input. And or another option is you can select the SQ editor tab at the top right there, and you can input that SQL statement right there and get your table name. So obviously you replace that with your schema name and your table name. But that is how you would gain access from your AUDB in Alteryx. So so this is what I'm going to call the automation tool roadmap of Alteryx, I guess. And so we just talked about getting access to the scheduler and the AUDB and PostgreSQL. So this is an example of like how you would use these tools to automate a workflow. You are pulling data from the data warehouse. Maybe you need to transform that data to visualize it in Tableau. And so that is where you do your Alteryx workflow to do all that for you. You schedule that workflow, let's say at 6 a.m. to run every day, and that will push that data to your PostgreSQL AUDB. Then you build out your dashboard and you will connect that data source to the AUDB, and you'll have that extract refresh, let's say at 7 a.m. So you want that after you run the Alteryx scheduled workflow. Now what that does is that will create an automated workflow such that it will give your dashboard up-to-date data every single day. And so it's a set it and forget it, right? And that is until the scheduler fails or the Tableau extract fails, in which case that's why we have job security, right? If we automate all our workflows, we're still needed because things can fail, right? So there we go. Google Sheets. So let's talk about Google Sheets in Alteryx. So I know some of you may cringe from Google Sheets being added in Alteryx, but I have found that the pros do outweigh the cons. I think it's very user-friendly and customizable. If you're dealing with domain experts, whether it be in business operations or HR, we don't need everyone to be an expert in Alteryx or in a database management system. We can leverage Google Sheets to almost create a single table or almost database in which we can pull data from. Now, some of the issues lie in trying to extract that data in Alteryx, and we're going to walk through that here. So accessing Google Sheets in Alteryx will be fairly straightforward to a point. You will go in and you will search up Google Sheets, and you will drop in that tool in your workflow. You'll select connect, and you will then put in your SSO. You will be prompted for permissions request from your Google account that you want to extract the Google Sheets from. And voila, you have the Google Sheets here. Now you might say, well, that wasn't very complicated. This is only if you want to access Google Sheets that are directly available to you. So these are not shared, or they are not shared and inserted into a folder, right? And so that's where it gets a little bit tricky. So have no fear, XML code is here, right? Basically what we would do is we would hover over options. You will go to user settings. We want to edit user settings if this is your first time editing XML code. You will go to advanced, and you'll enable XML code in your properties window. Once you hit save, you'll select your Google Sheets, and you will have this little icon at the top left, almost like a less than, greater than symbol. So this is what you would be, this is what you would see once you follow those steps. In order to hard code into a Google Sheets, you'll need 4 items of information. So we would need a workbook ID. You'll need your worksheet ID, your workbook name, and your worksheet name. And this can actually be easily found if you just open up a Google Sheet. So here's an example of just creating a Google Sheet. And we can see in the URL code is where you're going to find those IDs. So where I have highlighted under 1, that is going to be your workbook ID. Highlighted under 2 is going to be your Google Sheet ID. And then obviously the name of your workbook is going to be the name, and the sheet name is going to be the name of your sheet. So, this will be, I think, published, but basically the IDs are separated out by the slashes there. And then the Google Sheet ID is the GID and then equals, and that will be your Google Sheet ID. So once you gather that information, you can then go back to your XML code and input that information that we have gathered after the workbook ID, after the worksheet ID, and those other fields that I had highlighted before, so the 2 names here. And then once you run this, we can see now that we pull in the test data. Now you might ask, what are these additional syntax here? Once you run it, Alteryx will sometimes throw in some additional syntax. So as long as you perfectly copy those IDs and you put them directly after these little arrows here, which I'll just go back just to make the point. So you just paste them right here. Then you run it and you will be golden. So let's talk about an example of how we use Google Sheets and Alteryx. So this is just a fun example. This is our celebration Slack bot workflow. So we have a Google Sheet that, or a Google form that surveys as like a proof of concept in our area, individuals who want to be celebrated in our Slack channel. So we can identify who wants to be celebrated, and then we can pull information from the data warehouse. And so in the first of the month, we can put out whose birthday is that month, or who received a Sun Award, or who has reached a year of service milestone. And we can then have a Slack bot select that into a group channel. And that is one way of a fun way that we can use Google Sheets. There's many other ways. For example, PeopleSoft data, we have many departmental IDs and department names, but we generally will have like areas. So housing will have many department IDs, but it's all housing. Or we might have Dean of Students or SDFC. There's a lot of examples. And we have a Google Sheet that is managed by our HR department. And so they're able to kind of link those individual department IDs to a general department ID. And so we can store that information somewhere where it is always being updated and managed, and we can pull that directly into our Alteryx workflow. So when we feed that data field to say a dashboard, we're always getting the up-to-date information based off of the HR specialists who are who manage that that table. So there we go. In our automation tool roadmap, we have unlocked Google Sheets. Reporting tool suite. So reporting tool suite, this is, I believe, is one of the most powerful tool sets that you can use when automating reports here in Alteryx. This allows you to take any data sets and create a automated emailed reports with a lot of functionality and customizability. It has been very powerful in our department, and I will show you a few examples of how we use it. So this workflow is the ASU training compliance official. And so this will pull all active EOS professional staff employees. We can run this against a training compliance AUDB table, and we can identify who has taken specific ASU required trainings and who has not. We can then create a custom report that emails either the individual, the supervisors, and even VP areas of a status report of training compliance within their areas. And so this is a fairly, I think, powerful report or workflow. So we're going to go over just a few steps of how you would accomplish this using some of the reporting suite tools. And I also wanted to go more in depth into this. So I got a little bit long on this presentation. So if you have any more questions on this, feel free to come up afterwards. But let's start with the table tool and the reporting tool suite. So you can take row level data and we can convert that into a table image that we can put into an email. So in this example, we are pulling all individuals who have either completed or not completed their ASU required trainings. And we want to create a visual table for supervisors to visually see who has and who has not completed trainings. So we group by the supervisor. If you have a data set that shows active employees and attached to that is the supervisor information. I'm grouping by the name, email, and ID because if we were to get a duplicate off of that, then that means we probably have a problem. I usually, for all these tools, I will take the table width and I'll do a 100% percentage. This just makes the email look very clean and nice. And then you can configure your columns. Here it looks like I have everything selected, but say there's only a few things that you wanted to take a table of. So maybe this is a summary information, or in this instance, we're giving the individuals their email addresses and then the individual trainings that they have or have not completed. And then that will create a table that will go into our email, which we'll see later on. This is the text tool in which this is basically the main body paragraph or text field of your email that you want to go to a supervisor in this case, or maybe this will be leadership or your stakeholders. But what's powerful about this is we can this is going to create this text for every row. So that means we can put in fields. So for here, we're going to say hello, and we have the supervisor name associated to the employee on this row. So we can create these custom reports specifically for the supervisors. Additionally, earlier in the workflow, we provide summary information in terms of how many have completed the training out of how many that they supervise. This gives them some summary analysis on the percentage of employees in their area that have completed all required ASU trainings. Now, this is a layout tool. This is a tool where you will take all these different widgets. So you have the table that we talked about, the text tool, as well as some others in there. And you can start to format and build your reports that get sent out to your stakeholders, leadership, or whoever you would like to send this to. Typically, if we're doing an email, we want the orientation to be vertical, not horizontal. Having a vertical format is typically easy to read, just like a page layout. And then again, I do that page width of 100%. In the per row configuration, this is where you will take all those different tool widgets and you will order them in which you would like them to be seen in the email or report that we are submitting. And over at the right, you can see the blue text that looks like hyperlink. That's what those, the text tool and the table tool, that's what the output in Alteryx looks like, is it's just this little hyperlink that's essentially metadata that feeds this report. So here's an example of like how I created a header for this report. So I'm inputting a blank text input tool. I use a formula tool there to get the dates that we're running the reports. And then we have a text tool there, which I'm doing EOS training compliance. And then I input the formula tool that pulls the current dates. And then I'm going to append, and I should have showed this, but this second text tool, which I'm actually going to go back real quick. So these text tools also can accept images. And you may say, well, I see an image icon at the top here. Why don't we just use that? That's custom built. Well, I've found many times that it will lose the directory or image file if you use that tool, and actually using the text tool and then putting an image into here actually has a lot more reliability. So that is why I use text tools for images. But going back here, so this ASU logo, we just put that text file into, or we put that image file into the text tool. We append those so that they're all on the same row. And then we use the layout tool to actually create a horizontal layout in this case. And so we put the text on the left side and we put the image on the right. And then the layout tool allows us to make this nice little box around it. And then that is that is our header that we can then put into another layout tool for all the other texts and tables later on. So when you put it all together, this is what it looks like. This is the email that will get sent out to all supervisors within EOS on a monthly basis. It gives them a nice hello, and it lets them know how many employees have completed all required trainings under their area. And then what's nice is that also that text tool allows you to input URL links and which you can access there. So that way they don't have to go searching for where do I need to find this training. It is right there for them to just click or send to the individuals who need to take those trainings. This is another example of using the reporting tool. So this is our 0-hour report. So this is a report that goes to HR specialists, which shows them if a hourly employee has not submitted hours within the last 30 days. Therefore, this may be something that we want to investigate, right? And rather than trying to figure that out, pulling the data warehouse, we have created an automated report that will email on a monthly basis those HR specialists of the individuals who have not submitted hours in 30 days. Now, what is special about this dashboard or this workflow that I wanted to share here is that in these automated emailing tools, we can attach the backup data to the email. So how one would do this is you would want to save the Excel data in a temporary file in the gallery. So how you would do this is you will use a formula tool. You will name it something like file name. We will do a temp abbreviation in the beginning, and then you'll do plus. And then for this instance, I wanted to have an individual Excel file sent to the individual HR specialists because I don't want to give them just this giant information that relates to all student workers. I only want student workers associated to them. So breaking it up by the HR contact is a way that you can do that here in the directory or the file name here. And then when you're saving the file, you want to make sure you have the .xlsx and then the sheet name as such there. And so that's one way that you will be able to save the file in the temporary directory. Now, this is what it looks like once we connect an output tool. You will connect the output tool to the data output tool, and you will select down here at the bottom left, take file and table name from field. And we want to change the entire file path to that file name that we had just created. And then that will save that Excel file in your temporary directory in the gallery. One thing I will note that I didn't add here is that there's this tool right here. This is a block until done tool. You want to make sure you have that because you don't want the email sending before this gets a chance to save those temporary files. So you want to ensure you include that. So now the most powerful tool in the reporting suite of them all, that is the emailing tool. So a quick overview of this. In order to properly configure this, you want to make sure your SMTP is set up as smtp.asu.edu. You want to make sure your port is set to 25. And you want to make sure there is none on your encryptions. Now this allows you free range to send emails. It's that simple. You want to look at some of these fields here. So we have a lot of custom, you can customize this as you like. So we can say from, so typically you'll want to set up a departmental email if you're going to do something like this. And so here we'll have like EOS 0-hour reports at asu.edu. And then you want your to will be directly pulled from your table field. So to, if we want to pull from the field, we'll select use from field. And then you will then select where's the email addresses that we're sending to in the data. And then your subject, you can just put that. So I have their EOS 0-hour reports. And then for the attachments, what you want to have is you're going to pull from that file name field. Now, this file name field is slightly different from the one we just discussed. This one's going to be here. So you're going to notice that you don't want to include the sheet name in your file. You only want to end it with the .xlsx. So that way it actually sends the file. If you try to do the sheet, it will error out. So you want to rename the file name. And then in order to get to that nice report that we saw before, to get into the main body, then you'll do select from field, and you're going to pull from your layout tool right here, in which you configure it however you like. So this is a kind of a sample of what that 0-hour report looks like when you put it all together. And then obviously this is in Alteryx, but if this got sent, this would also have the file attachments there. And another cool thing, because you have a lot of custom, you can customize these tables. So here I have in descending order, so we can see the problem childs first in terms of how many days hourly employee has not submitted hours for. So the HR specialist can see those first rather than having to dig through to find the worst cases. So here's a quick example of how we can use multiple layout tools in order to build a really customized emailing report. So here, this is a current non-rev staff report. And so we look at this because we have MLA and MLS contractual compliance agreements, and we want to make sure that we're leveraging our economic allotments for non-rev. And so this allows us to track that, leveraging the different layout tools here. So you can see there's a lot of layout tools, but in each layout, we can append these fields. And essentially what's happening is we're creating these tables inside of a layout, and then we're stacking these layouts horizontally, and then we're taking those horizontal layouts, and then we're stacking them vertically. And so you can start to see that this is a grid system, and you can really flush out really nice looking reports. And then just to kind of come back to the compliance training, this is, I think, again, just our preface that if you were to try to, if you'd like to recreate this, you'll obviously want active employees with the associated appropriate supervisors, and you can find the training compliance of all employees under ASU training._ENT compliance training detail, and that is a AUDB table there. And I will just mention with a few minutes of reconfiguring this workflow, we could send emails to the 30,000 professional staff and student workers, notifying them of their training compliance, and we could email additionally all of their supervisors of their training compliance status. And so I think this it's pretty impactful workflow. So there we go. We unlocked emailing tool in our auto reports. Now on to Alteryx applications. So introducing the interface tool suite. Interface tools are pretty powerful in that you can create macros. Basically, if a tool doesn't work for you, you can create one that does, right? But another thing is that these also allow you to turn your workflows into actual applications almost creating a finished product, that I like to think of. Now, I'm not going to go over all of these interface tools, kind of like I didn't go over all the reporting tools, but these are a few that you may primarily use, and I'll show you an example of a workflow that we leverage. So this is our meal plan reconciliation application. And so this is used to reconcile the StarRes database meal plans to our third-party partner Airmark, and they leverage a Atrium database. Now, on the 21st, 42nd, and 63rd day of a term, we do reconciliations on meal plans. And so that includes one file, nightly StarRes file, and two Atrium files, which split up the base meal plan and the MMG file. Now, there's basically, as just a quick summary, so these are the three input files. We clean them and wrangle them how we need them. And then we have all these different cases that we want to check for when we're creating this reconciliation process. Now, and then we'll get into it, but all of those output tools will create individual sheets on one Excel file. But rather than say having to go in here and try to connect all the different, reconfigure all the different connections in order to run this, we can turn it into an application that can be leveraged. So we'll start with okay, so this is the file browse tool. So this is going to be a interface tool which you will connect to an action tool. So essentially what this does is this file browse tool allows you in the application, which we'll see in a little bit, allows you to select a file from your file directory that you want to replace the data that's coming into here. And so this allows you to set the title name for that, what you want it to do. And then the action tool will take the information from that file browse tool, and it will say, okay, what do we want, the incoming data, and what do we want to happen, or what do we want changed in our file input tool. And we're not going to go into too much detail into all of it, but give you the kind of steps or maybe inspiration into how to turn your workflows into applications. So the next step would be the Excel, the way we're handling the Excel file here. So as I mentioned earlier, each one of these tool containers is creating a new sheet in our reconciliation file. And so a few things I wanted to point out here is the counts tool. So what we're doing is we're counting the different, let's say, inconsistencies or data cases that fall within a certain condition that lead the data to flow in that direction. And rather than wanting to have this now Excel file that I got to go and I look at every tab and figure out how many, how many students have 2+ meal plans, what we can do is we can add this count tool. We can then select our data output tool, come over here, click on take file from table name or field, and now we can append the count number that we've obtained in that area. So now what we're doing is we have the, doesn't show it here, but let's just say the sheet name is called 2+ meal plan. Now we're doing underscore and we're applying the count. So now it's going to say 2+ meal plan. And if we had, say, 10 students that had 2 meal plans, that's going to be 20 rows of data. So it's going to say 2+ meal plan underscore 20. And this is an easy way for you to just open up that reconciliation report and quickly identify how many reconciliations or inconsistencies that we would need to investigate under all the different tabs. So now that we've configured our Excel to do that, now how do we convert that into an application? Well, we can use the action tool to replace the directory that this is going to. So right now it's a fixed directory that we just created. This will work if you run this by itself, but say you want to share this application, or you want to make sure that this file is going into a different folder, and you don't want to have to go in each of these 20+ output tools and reconfigure the file directory. you can use the action tool to replace a specific string. And here we're going to be replacing where the file goes. So you can use this action tool, configure it as it is here, and you can connect it to a file browse tool, and that allows you to put these reconciliation files into a folder of your need. And so that's what the folder looks like, and that's the name that you put there. So you turn this, which pretty big web, and you simplify it down to this. And now this, all you got to do is you got to put in your mill plan file, your base file, your MNG, and now you can output the reconciliation file to wherever you want in your directory, and that even includes shared Dropbox folders. So you can just, with a click of a button, now process reconciliations that used to be manual and very time intensive. So that is an example of leveraging the interface tools in order to build onto existing reconciliations or other workflows to automate and kind of increase that efficiency there. So the last thing that I want to brief on here is the Alteryx Python tool. This is a workflow that is relatively new. And what we're doing is we're using Python as an API tool to connect to Airtable. And so this is through the RFF, or request for funding process, that we've been working on or the technology team has been working on setting up this Airtable interface for the business operation managers and specialists and different requesters. And so what we're doing is we're taking the Python code that they've created to be able to connect to Airtable, and we're tweaking it slightly to integrate it into Alteryx. And then from there, we can perform the different transformations that are needed on this data. And then we can upload that to or push that data to our AUDB, which then will feed our RFF dashboards. And so in hopes that requesters can go into our dashboard, put in their request number, and get an understanding of where, what status their request is at and what approval process it's in. Additionally, we're also using the Python tool to cross-check to make sure that the data that we have in Airtable versus what we have in the AUDB. And eventually, we're going to reach a row limit, so to speak, in Airtable. And so what we're going to want to do is we're only going to want to have current active or currently being processed RFF information in Airtable. So this allows you to check your AUDB, check your Airtable, and if we have cases that they exist in both and they've already been processed, we can run a script to remove those rows in Airtable, but we maintain historical records in our AUDB. So this is just a quick overview. If you want to go the path of leveraging the Python tool, when you configure this tool, you want to make sure that when you're installing your packages, that you want to do it to your user directory. When you initially try to install any Python packages within Alteryx, you're going to get errors typically, and that's because it's trying to install it, trying to recall, but it's trying to install it a different route. So you want to make sure that you're installing it to your user directory, and you just use -- user there. And so once you get your data feed, and we're not going to go too in depth in any of the code here, but the few things that I want to point out is once you configure your code to get that data, how do you export that data into your Alteryx environment? It's fairly simple. You're just going to write Alteryx-write, and then typically you're going to be working with pandas data frames. So you're just going to select the data frame that you have your data stored in, and then you're going to do comma, and then the number you input is going to be the anchor in which the data outputs out on the right side of the Python tool. And so that allows you to have 5 different ways of outputting data through one Python tool. And with that, we've completed our automation tool roadmap. You can see that there are many different ways of leveraging the data sources. many different ways of wrangling data within Alteryx, and leveraging those email tools, and the reporting suite is very powerful, and allows you to convert all the different reports that you may do, that you may pull data from the data warehouse or a Google Sheets or maybe a different third party, and turn it into something that automates, as well as leveraging your AUDB to feed other third-party tools and software. And one thing that I realized I did not mention, but I would like to, just very quickly, not going to take too much of your time. I do want to preface a caution when using the emailing tool. I realized I didn't say it this morning. You want to pay very close attention to this number right here. The records that you input into your email tool is going to be the number of emails that you send out. So it might be funny, not funny, but if you were to connect this to financial data with millions of rows, and you connected the email tool and you said, I want to see how this works, and you press run and you put your supervisor's email in here, you could very well send them millions of emails. So you want to be very careful with this tool, that you read this number here and you say 7 emails. Does that sound like the number of emails I want to be sending out? And if that's yes, double check it. So that's just what I wanted to mention there. All right. So we covered a lot today, and hopefully you have gathered some inspiration, identified a tool that maybe you didn't think of leveraging before, or identified a way to automate a process that you currently work on. And with that, thank you. Okay. Google Drive. Okay.
And as I found out, it's not going to be school in my that if the interface tool uses people code to get the values related to in the list box or in the drop down list, if it is failing, it is a pretty problem. It's a machine.
Okay. Very interesting. Yeah, thank you for that. So you're saying that a way to access potentially Google Sheets is just to access the Google Drive tool? And do you know if we'd still be able to? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, very soon. Okay. Yeah. I see. The joys of upgrading, right? All right. Well, maybe in the next data conference, we'll have all the updates on connecting to the Google Drive tool and all the fixes from there, right? Awesome. Well, thank you for that. Yes.
Presentation, thank you. Would you mind going back a few slides to the final slide in your interface tools segment when you have that right form? That one.
Yep.
Okay. So I have a few reconciliation workflows where one of the inputs, there's 2 inputs, and one of the inputs is an Excel file, and the other input are some EDW tables.
Yep.
In the EDW table segment of the workflow, I have a filter tool in there where every time I run this workflow, I do it manually.
Yeah.
Once a month. I go in that filter tool and I change the dates, the K3 and dates.
Yeah.
Part of that reconciliation.
Uh-huh.
So do you know if
if I could use like an interface tool, one like this, where then I could change the dates in that filter tool through that one.
Yep, you certainly can. So there's a couple different tools in here and a little rusty in some of them, but essentially what you have is you have your action tools. And one of these, so a few different ways, and sure there's a more efficient way, but one is you have your text box. So you could input a text box, and then if you were to input, say, like the date perfectly, then that would you could have that connects to an action tool and update a particular filter that you have in your workflow. So you can connect that text box directly to a filter that you have in your workflow, and it will update the filter value to the date that you're looking for. And then additionally, I imagine the drop down, so you could either preset dates or look, there's a date tool. I'm sure that would be useful. So you could select the date, action, and then directly update your filter. So that's probably a better way there. And yeah, so you can definitely connect, you can use the applications to connect to the data warehouse, use the interface tools to directly change filters or even conditions. So this is obviously like a very basic overview, but definitely with reconciliations where you're dealing with files that you're getting sent to, using the interface tools and converting those applications, not only make like the job of doing the reconciliation easier, but handing somebody this versus handing somebody this makes it more of a, finished product, so to speak, that makes it user friendly. Yes. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And hopefully you found this useful, and to the next data conference, right? I think we have lunch and slice competition in the main ballroom or conference room. So anyway, thank you, everybody. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
I enjoyed your. I do a lot of Python coding. Yeah, I've never done it inside the contract. Just to get forward and imported into Python.
Yeah, so actually, the Python tool, hang on a second, let me figure out which charger is right there. Before I walk out with one. The Python tool in Alteryx actually runs Jupyter Notebook. So the difference is that you're going to initially just have Alteryx packages that you can use in Python, but in order to install those external packages, you just want to make sure that in that installation process, you're installing them to like the user directory rather than like the system directory. Thank you. Yeah, I showed the code, and you just so there's going to be an array, and whatever packages you want to install, you're just going to input them into the array separated, and then as long as you have the same kind of code snippet, you should be able to install most, if not all, packages within the Python tool set. And so it kind of allows you, because like, Alteryx is already kind of like a no-code Python tool, but what's even better is now we can use Python code in Alteryx, right? And we're currently just using it as like an API connector, but obviously Python possibilities are endless with it, right? So definitely a powerful thing.
Yeah, I use your notebook in AWS. So I can access the databases, look through tables, generate output and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can do the.
But only thing I cannot schedule it. I mean, just putting it inside Alteryx, I can still do that.
Yeah, yes, you should be able to, you'll be able to schedule it and you'll be able to run successfully. There'll be some trial and error, I'm sure. But that workflow that I showed you that leverages the Python tool runs on the gallery and it updates our AUB daily. So definitely a possibility for any of your use cases. I will mention that if you do use Alteryx or you're familiar with Alteryx.
I played with it.
Uh, yeah.
Simple if you do coding, it's not easy to solve.
Right, exactly. Very straightforward if you're doing coding.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, it's still very simple compared to.
Exactly.
Yeah, I explained in coding and that's.
Correct,
like a-
correct. Yes. The one thing I will note is that it's gonna be slower than you would anticipate. Like if you were to run code in like Jupyter Notebook, interfacing the Alteryx tool set is going to be a lot slower than it would be external. So just keep that in mind. But it should have the same capabilities if you were to leverage it external from Alteryx.
Slide link available.
They should be available, and then
Including the Python code and that setup.
so I'm not gonna include the ET code, but I will include like that what the screenshot was, that will be included, so you'll be able to,
Installing packages.
yeah, you'll be able to install the packages with that. But yeah, and then I'll definitely connect with the conference to ensure it wasn't in the Google Sheets deck here, but I will make sure that it's pushed or published. The one I just presented, yeah, so, but, and then you're also free, I don't have a card, but, you're free to reach out. If you need to- Yeah. So, GHT, ILL, EM, EM, and then at ASU.edu. Yes. Perfect, yeah, it was great meeting you, and James, nice to meet you, James. Right, look forward to the connect.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Great job, yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, you work with them?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, glad you felt that way, because my goal, right, the meeting was to say,
Get inside the door. Anybody talk to him, like, I know that. Yeah, good with that.
And everything has to be, for 3 years. Yeah. Evaluation, how that is.
I think, like.
Oh, it's like a town hall thing. Yeah.